Hey everyone, welcome back. Anime One here with a fresh take on Jujutsu Kaisen. And for god damn it, I've been itching to talk about this for a while now. But I wanted to wait until the series ended so we could have a full scope on Yuji's abilities. But here's the kicker. We still don't know what the fuck Yuji's domain expansion is. Like, they didn't even give it a name. Seriously, Gigi, what the fuck are you doing? I wanted to talk about that, but yeah, let's just not talk about it. The main character of the series, and we are left hanging on like this. But hey, today we are flipping the script a bit. We're gonna explore a cool what if scenario where Yuji grows up under the influence of Kenjaku. Yeah, Kenjaku, Yuji's own mom. If Yuji were raised and trained by Kenjaku, he could seriously max out his potential in a way we haven't seen in the main series. But before we do dive in, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Alright, without any further ado, let's jump into this crazy scenario. So right off the bat, this time Kenjaku isn't going to disappear right after Yuji's birth. Instead, he's got much more darker plans for Yuji in motion. Right after that, Kenjaku kills Yuji's father and his grandfather, completely isolating Yuji. With no family ties, Yuji's entire upbringing revolves around Kenjaku's ambition. He's raised with the clear purpose of one day being shaped into Kenjaku's ultimate weapon, anything beyond we have seen in the main series. Since Kenjaku knows the immense power that resides in Sukuna's fingers, it would make sense that he would start feeding them to Yuji as early as he can, aiming to mold Yuji's powers around Sukuna's abilities. By starting around age 7, since I think that would be the age that Yuji's body would be able to handle Sukuna's fingers' power, Yuji would have a solid 7 years to absorb Sukuna's influence and gradually assimilate the cursed energy of Sukuna. If Yuji had 15 fingers by the time he was 14 years old, he would have extensive time to adapt to Sukuna's powers, developing a mastery far beyond anything that we have seen in the original timeline, since Yuji, just being the vessel of Sukuna for a few months, maximum a year, was able to use Sukuna's cleave and dismantle and shrine, basically, right? So having Sukuna fingers and Sukuna inside of him for 7 years, I think Yuji would be able to do those stuff much more proficiently, especially with Kenjaku as his teacher. So Yuji develops a powerful skill set. First, including Malevolent Shrine, a monstrous amount of cursed energy, RCT, and even blood manipulation. He's already a force to be reckoned with. But Kenjaku's a real genius lies in how he could manipulate Yuji's emotions and mindsets, leading him to develop a hatred for Jujutsu High without even revealing his true identity. Let's see how could Kenjaku do this. That's the main thing. How could Kenjaku manipulate Yuji? Now, as I explained before, Kenjaku is raising Yuji as his supposed mother, right? He's still inside Kaori because, well, Geto is still not dead. So he's still inside Kaori, and Geto died, roughly when Yuji was around 14, maybe 13 years old. So I would be inclined to believe that he was raising Yuji inside Kaori's body. So he has Yuji wrapped around his little fingers completely. So that's that. So Kenjaku would fake his death and make Yuji raise. Now, why would Kenjaku fake his death? He needs Geto in order to complete the merger and merge with Tengen and absorb Tengen. So he needs Geto to do that. And since Geto was killed by Gojo this time, I think Kenjaku would immediately go after Geto's body as soon as he hears about it. So, by faking his death and pinning it on Jujutsu High, Kenjaku effectively poisons Yuji's perceptive on sorcerers and the institution that raised him. Yuji, now boiling with anger and confusion, would be fully primed to target Jujutsu High. This betrayal would add an emotion edge to his powers, as it directed his hatred into honing his curse techniques. The second is Kenjaku's disguise as Suguru Geto. When Kenjaku reappears as Geto, he able to maintain control over Yuji's and redirect his anger. Since Yuji trusts his mother's friend, Geto will be open to the idea that revenge isn't the immediate answer. Instead, Geto encourages him to focus on the larger goal, tying into what his mother taught him about achieving their shared mission. The third is Kenjaku's curse technique and Yuji's ignorance. By hiding his own curse technique from Yuji, Kenjaku ensures that Yuji remains oblivious to body switching abilities. Since Kenjaku's stitches on Kaori's forehead faded soon after Yuji was born, Yuji never associating the stitches on his mother's forehead. This makes it very easy for Kenjaku to maintain a ruse as Geto, someone Yuji believes genuinely cares about him, understands his mother's ambition. This way, Yuji doesn't suspect that Kenjaku is the one orchestrating the chaos, keeping him in the dark and under control. With this setup, Yuji's journey becomes more of vengeance and loyalty to his mother's memory, while wielding a domain expansion and other techniques at an incredibly high level, probably surpassing what we've seen in the Karen series. Driven by his grief and desire to hone his mother's wishes, he channels all that power into Kenjaku's cause, unaware that he's being used. Now, even here, I don't see why Kenjaku would not team up with the disaster curses. Meaning, why Kenjaku and Yuji would not team up with the disaster curses, right? So, having Yuji accompany Kenjaku and the disaster curses completely shifts the dynamic as in the series, making him a formidable threat right from the beginning. Let's break down how the scenario plays out with Yuji confronting Gojo, what it means for the rest of the story. So, Yuji's first clash with Gojo, how is it gonna happen, right? So in this timeline, Yuji's alignment with the disaster curses gives him a front row seat in Kenjaku's plan to seal Gojo. Since the cursed finger Yuji consumes at the beginning of the original story is already part of him, Megumi and Nobara are off doing some other kind of missions, while Yuji faces off against Gojo earlier than expected. Now, how would this happen? Jogo's battle and Yuji's intervention. When Jogo goes in fully confident and reckless, things unfold similarly at first. Gojo overpowering him easily, but this time instead of Hanami interfering, it's Yuji who steps in. Seeing an opening, Yuji unleashes a barrage of dismantle, cutting through the air, forcing Gojo to jump back. This moment lets Gojo notice Yuji and instantly assesses him as a serious threat. The intensity of the cursed energy radiating from Yuji catches him off guard. It's even greater than Yuta's, Gojo would think. As Gojo looks at him, he sees Yuji dressed in a black outfit, remnants of Sukuna's attire, which add an eerie aura to the encounter. Gojo's mind races as he senses the incredible power radiating from Yuji, as he quickly realizes Yuji is the vessel for Sukuna. Yuji wastes no time, teleporting right in front of Gojo and attempting a direct punch, his fist glowing with cursed energy, aka domain amplification. When Gojo's infinity is breached by Yuji's enhanced strike, Gojo is taken back, realizing that Yuji is somehow able to bypass his infinity, a rare feat. In a flash, Yuji attacks land, steaming Gojo's arms as he blocks it. Gojo recalls his battle with Toji, noting the power between Yuji's overwhelming speed and Toji's own ferocity. Yuji's raw power and speed resemble Toji's, which instantly elevates him as a high-level threat in Gojo's eyes. Gojo responds with his usual confidence, acknowledging Yuji's strength and comparing him to Yuta, but makes it clear that he doesn't see Yuji as a true match. In an instant, Gojo appears beside Yuji, aiming to land a strike, but Yuji, using Sukuna's techniques, deflects Gojo's blow, countering with a cleave. As the slash rippled through Gojo's body, he barely evades, jumping back to regroup and assess their strange encounter. As he absorbs Yuji's movements and techniques he's just used, Gojo puts it all together, realizing Yuji is wielding Sukuna's abilities. Not only that, but the immense cursed energy emanating from Yuji further confirms his suspicion. The vessel for Sukuna had been fed fingers for years and trained under someone so that he could control it. Yuji's mastery of Sukuna's techniques combined with his vast energy makes him a terrifying threat, one that Gojo recognizes will require his full attention. As Gojo takes a moment to assess Yuji, the young sorcerer doesn't let up. He channels more cursed energy, his aura flaring red. As he closes the distance in a heartbeat, Yuji unleashes a vicious combination of cleave and dismantle, sending precise slashes at Gojo from multiple angles. Each one narrowly misses or is deflected by Gojo, but Yuji's speed and relentless pursuit push Gojo onto the defensive, rarity for the strongest sorcerer alive. Gojo smirks, clearly impressed. "You really think you can take me down, huh? Alright then, let's see what you've got." His playful tone masks the seriousness in his eyes. Gojo is now in full battle mode. Gojo's counterback. With a flash, Gojo activates blue and pulls Yuji towards him. With an overwhelming gravitational force, Yuji grits his teeth, trying to resist, but Gojo's curse technique is too powerful, dragging him forward. Just as he's pulled within striking range, Gojo channels his old curse energy into a crushing kick aimed at Yuji's chest. But Yuji reacts instantly, using cursed energy to reinforce his body. He takes the hit, sliding back from the impact, just stays on his feet. He is visibly bruised, but he stands firm, glaring at Gojo. "I'm not going down that easily," Yuji mutters. Yuji lunges forward with divergent fist that is coated with domain amplification, directed at Gojo. This time, however, he pushes through Gojo's infinity with sheer force, something only a handful of fighters could manage. With the impact causes Gojo to slide back. He momentarily lowers his guard, genuinely surprised. His arms smother with the cursed energy as he blocks the attack, the force of Yuji's hit shocking him. "You really are something else," Gojo admits, the intensity in his gaze sharpening, "but I'm not done yet." In a swift motion, Gojo combines blue and red, forming a devastating hollow purple. The orb of destruction hurtles towards Yuji, tearing through the environment around them as it travels. Yuji realizes that he cannot dodge it in time, so he braces himself as he uses domain amplification to lower the damage as much as he can. The impact is devastating. Yuji uses RCT to heal immediately, but he's clearly shaken, his clothes tattered, blood trickling, a cut on his forehead as dust clears. Gojo stands confidently, even not out of breath. "If you're really Sukuna's vessel, then show me what you've got," he taunts. Realizing he's outmatched, Yuji makes a desperate move. He clenches his fist, summoning the cursed energy into a wide radius as he tries to tap into his own domain expansion. One he's only barely managed to use in training. The air cracks around him. But this was different. Even Gojo sensed it. Yuji was forming a barrier that was not visible. What? Gojo thought. But the barrier broke, and soon Yuji was not able to manifest his domain. Seeing the instability, Gojo doesn't hesitate. He stepped forward, narrowing the distance between him and Yuji with unbelievable speed, fully prepared to finish the fight. Gojo's quick thinking and reversal, with Yuji's domain starting to break, Gojo sees his chance. He reaches out, preparing to unleash another attack to disrupt the forming domain. But he gets close. Yuji unleashes a last dismantle at close range, forcing Gojo to jump back to avoid the slashes. This buys Yuji a few precious moments as he takes a deep breath, sensing his energy depleting. I have to escape. Now, Yuji realizes, scanning for an opening. He knows he's over his head. He's not ready to give up. Drawing on every once ounce of his cursed energy that he has left, he channels it into his legs, making a final sprint away from the battlefield. The narrow escape. Gojo, seeing Yuji's attempt to flee, doesn't let up. In an instant, he's right behind Yuji, launching a powerful red blast. The force of an attack is enough to level a small building. It chips through Yuji's side, sending him spiraling down. He stumbles but manages to roll back onto his feet through sheer determination, keeping him moving. Yuji spots Hanami and Jogo in distance, having them come to his assistance. Seeing the scale of the fight, he stumbles back towards them. Hanami throws up a wall of branch to block Gojo's line of sight, while Jogo follows up by unleashing a massive flame blast, hoping to delay Gojo for long enough to Yuji to get away. Gojo pauses. Assessing the situation, he could easily pursue them, but the curses and Yuji are retreating fast, and he senses the fight could draw out longer than he anticipated. With a sigh, he relaxes his stance and watching as Yuji disappears into the distance with Hanami and Jogo. As Yuji escapes with his allies, he takes a moment to catch his breath. His body bruised and exhausted, he clenches his fist, the sting of failure hitting hard. Despite all his power, he realizes just how far he still has to go to stand on equal footing with someone like Gojo. Back at the battlefield, Gojo stands alone looking at the fading traces of Yuji's cursed energy. He contemplates their encounter, realizing that that boy was someone that could one day become a true threat. This is no ordinary vessel. Yuji is both stronger and more dangerous than Gojo anticipated. For now, Gojo, this fight was just a taste of what lies ahead. Yeah, for Yuji, however, it's a harsh reminder that his training and cursed power alone won't be enough. If he wants to fulfill his mother's mission, he has to face Gojo again. He will grow even stronger to master his domain and to embrace his role as Sukuna's vessel in the way he couldn't even imagine before. After the intense fight with Gojo, Yuji is retreating with Hanami and Jogo. As they carry him through the dense forest, Yuji starts to feel an ominous presence stirring within him. His vision blurs momentarily, and he realizes he's slipping right into Sukuna's innate domain, the dark, eerie space where Sukuna, the king of curses, resides. Yuji appears disoriented in the midst of darkness. Stone pillars rise around him, and a faint red symbol glow along the floor, illuminating the shadows. He's been here before, but only for a brief time, not for this long. Suddenly, he hears Sukuna's mocking laughter echoing through around him. Sukuna emerges from the darkness, a smug grin plastered on his face, as he towers over Yuji. Oh, look at you, limping away defeated. That didn't go quite the way you planned now, did it? Yuji clenched his fist, swallowing up the king of curses. You think that's funny, don't you? Sukuna looks at Yuji with a grin. Oh, I think it's hilarious. You stirred around and you're so sure of yourself. Think you're worthy of my power, but against Gojo, you're nothing but a worm scrambling in the dust. Sukuna circles around him, slowly, his eyes gleaming with amusement. What happened out there was a lesson in your own weakness. Yuji says, I wasn't expecting you to be useful anyway. He snaps, irritation rising. I can handle it my own. Sukuna simply looks at Yuji. Handle it in your own, huh? You barely survived. Sukuna smirked, crossing his arms. Your precious mother raised you on my power, yet you still fail to use it properly. I'm the one who knows its true depths, not you. Yuji glares at Sukuna, struggling to hold back his anger. I don't need your help, Sukuna. I'll get stronger without you. Sukuna looks at Yuji with an amused look. Is that so? The only reason you're even alive right now is because of me. Don't forget, brat, you're not here because of your own strength. You're here because you're my vessel. Without me, you're nothing. Sukuna's tone grew darker, the mockery shifting into a more threatening edge. Let me be clear, boy. You're playing with powers you barely understand. You flaunt my techniques, yet you don't even comprehend them. All those little slashes and punches you mean and throw cannot unlock the full potential I've given you. You're weak because you refuse to embrace what I am offering. Yuji hesitates, his pride, resentment, warning with a realization that Sukuna has a point. He wants to rely on his own strength to be in control, but deep down, he knows that Sukuna's power surpasses his own abilities. What do you want, Sukuna? What's in this for you? He narrows his eyes in suspicion. Why would you care whether I use your powers properly or not? Sukuna laughs again, and the sound reverberating through the carve. Care, don't flatter yourself. I'm merely irritated by your pathetic display. You're a vessel for the king of the curses, brat. Yet you act like a sniveling child. If you're going to represent me, at least do it with some dignity. Sukuna steps closer, his voice a low, menacing growl. Listen closely. You can defeat Gojo with your foolish pride alone. You want to survive? You want to win? Then you stop pretending to be noble. Embrace the power I've given you. Stop holding back and use it fully. If I do that, what's stopping you from taking over my body? Trust me, boy. If I wanted to take over your body, I would have done it by now. But I'm giving you a choice. Grow stronger, embrace your role as my vessel, and together we can destroy anyone who stands in our way, even if it's Gojo Satoru. You don't get it, Sukuna. I'm not going to lose myself to you. I'll use your powers, but I'll stay in control. Sukuna chuckles, shaking his head. We'll see how long that lasts. But you'll need more than that to just your own resolve to survive this war. Remember that. With that, Sukuna's form begins to fade, the darkness receding as Yuji feels himself being pulled back to consciousness. Before he disappears completely, Sukuna's voice echoes one last time, chilling and amused. Come back to me when you're ready to unleash hell. Until then, enjoy your little charade of control, Itadori Yuji. Yuji gasps as he returns to the real world, his heart pounding. The conversation lingers in his mind, stirring a mix of anger and uncertainty. He knows that he needs Sukuna's power to fulfill his mission, but he's determined to do it in his own terms. Still, the word echo, embrace the power. Whether he likes it or not, Sukuna has planted the seeds of doubt, and perhaps a small reluctance and desire to understand more of what power he wields. He rises, still battered from the fight, and steels himself, pushing the lingering effects of Sukuna's words aside. He grows stronger, and he'll do it without losing himself, or at least that's what he keeps telling himself, as he sets his sights on the battle yet to come. After his unsettling conversation with Sukuna, Yuji returns to his training with renowned focus. Despite his pride and reluctance, he knows he needs to go stronger, and that means delving deeper into the curse technique he's been granted, including his domain expansion. Under Kenjaku's tutelage, Yuji pushes himself harder than ever, determined to master his skill and truly understand his potential as Sukuna's vessel. Kenjaku, ever the manipulative mentor that he is, seizes this opportunity to shape Yuji into the weapon he envisions. He recognizes the anger and frustration within Yuji, understanding that it can fuel his cursed energy. In the training ground, Kenjaku observes Yuji every move, noting his progress and offering guidance as he tries to manifest his domain. Your conversation with Sukuna has brought you closer to understanding your potential, but merely wielding his power isn't enough. You must surpass him. You need a domain that reflects both his and your own spirit. Remember, an open barrier domain will be more versatile and more dangerous if you know how to wield it. Yuji focuses, trying to keep Kenjaku's words in mind. He feels the cursed energy flowing through him, raw and powerful, yet still difficult to control. He's attempted his domain expansion before, but it never was successful. The challenge lies not in forming the barrier itself, but keeping it open, creating an attack space without enclosing it, a technique that is complex and draining. Kenjaku steps forward, his gaze intense. Your domain must be unique to you, Yuji. Use Sukuna's influence, but make it yours. Let's try again. As Yuji trains, he channels his cursed energy, letting it pool around him. The energy begins to manifest as the dark, crackling aura spreads from around him, slowly creating a shape of a domain, but instead of closing it off, he envisions an open barrier. His mind races. He considers how Sukuna's malevolent shrine, a binding wall that allows him to extend a domain without limitations. Yuji takes a deep breath, drawing on both his own cursed energy and Sukuna's influence. He reaches deep into that place within himself where Sukuna's power resides, borrowing his strength but molding it on his own free will. Finally, the energy takes shape, forming an open barrier domain around him. With this space, Yuji can sense immense potential. Sukuna's technique, yes, but also his own strength heightened and sharpened, formed a gate behind Yuji. As the gate opened, Hades' gate, Yuji said, as everything around Yuji, or at least 50 meters in the radius of the gate, started getting destroyed. But the interesting thing was, it wasn't cleave or dismantle. The slashes that were bearing down on everything within 50 meters of radius were blood slashes, as Yuji dispelled his own domain. Good, now focus. Cleave, dismantle are your foundations, but you must be precise. With an open barrier reaches wide, the attacks you release within the space are your limitless, but they will drain you quickly. Try to extend your range. Yuji raised his hand, feeling the cursed energy. He visualizes cleave and aiming it at a distant tree. A powerful blood slash cuts right through it. Feeling it with ease, he follows it up with dismantle. A slash that was not made of blood but just a normal dismantle destroys the nearby rocks and trees, carving a path through the training ground. He grins, feeling the acceleration of his newfound power, but he can feel the toll as well. His body trembles, the strain of the domain while executing techniques takes its toll. He releases it, gasping, sweat pouring down his face. He turns to Kenjaku, who is smiling, clearly pleased with his progress. You see now, Kenjaku said, the open barrier gives you an advantage even Sukuna cannot easily replicate. The ability to strike from a distance without the need of a confined space is where you will surpass him. With this mastery, Gojo and his allies will be powerless against you. Yuji clenches his fist as a surge of confidence rising within him. He finally feels as though he's unlocked a new level of strength that truly belongs to him, something that combines both his and Sukuna's power. Despite the sacrifices, despite the darkness he had to accept, he knows he has made progress. This is just the beginning. I'll push even further until I'm ready to take all of them on, no matter what it takes. Kenjaku watches, a knowing smile on his face. He sees that Yuji is falling deeper into the path that he lays out for him, embracing the curse he carries and mastering it in his own way that even he didn't anticipate. The potential is immense, as Kenjaku knows that. With Yuji as his weapon, the future of the Jutsu sorcery and his plans are falling perfectly into place. Few days later, as Megumi steps cautiously through an abandoned factory, Tracking the cursed energy, he feels a strange mix of anticipation and tension. He knows there's a cursed room nearby, and there's something else lingering in the air. A presence he can't quite place his finger on. He finally reaches the center of the cursed energy and stops short. There, standing with his back to Megami, is someone he doesn't even recognize. The figure is dressed in dark clothing with an imposing aura. He exudes an immense amount of cursed energy. Beside him lies the remains of the cursed room, its essence dissipating into air. The stranger turns around and Megumi is taken back. He's younger than he expected, around his own age, with a determined look in his eyes. But there's something familiar, something almost haunting in the way he holds himself. You must be Megumi Fushiguro. I've heard about you. Megumi narrows his eyes, confused. Who are you, and how do you know my name? The boy takes a deep step forward, crossing his arms. The name's Yuji Tadori. I've been following your movements for a while now. He pauses, glancing at the cursed energy residue around them. You've got a knack for running into trouble, huh? Megumi studies him, feeling a strange pull. He's heard rumors of someone with immense cursed energy who's been dealing with special grade curses, but you never expected to run into him right here and here, especially. You took down the cursed room. How? Yuji just looks at Megumi. I've had some training, and I know a thing or two about cursed energy. He steps closer, and Megumi can feel the sheer intensity of his aura, like a dark flame held barely in a check. But I didn't come here for you, I came for that. He points to a small black box lying on the ground, surrounded by old talismans and faintly radiating cursed energy. Megumi's eyes widen. He recognizes the energy immediately. That's Sukuna's finger. You're after it? Yuji nods. Yeah, it's part of why I'm here, but I didn't expect anyone else to be here either. Looks like we both stumble on to the same thing. Megumi steps forward defensively. Why would you be after Sukuna's finger? Do you have any idea what they can do? I know exactly what they can do. That's why I want them. I want to grow in power. Megumi watches as Yuji retrieves the box containing Sukuna's finger, slipping into his jacket. The way Yuji spoke about the finger, the way he carried himself, it made it clear he wasn't just collecting the fingers for safekeeping or something. There was a hunger in his voice, a desire for power that sent chills down Megumi's spine. As Yuji turns to leave, he glances back at Megumi, his expression serious but tinged with a hint of understanding. I didn't mean to intervene in your mission, but you shouldn't be here alone. It is dangerous. Megumi stands his ground defensive. I can handle myself just fine. I don't need you looking after me. Yuji chuckles, almost mirroring his own thoughts. You remind me of someone I know. Take care of yourself, Megumi. I have a feeling we'll meet again. With that, Yuji walks away, leaving Megumi with a lingering sense of unease. The way Yuji talked about Sukuna's finger, how he needed them to grow stronger, wasn't just reckless, it was dangerous. Megumi clenched his fist, his mind racing. He's heard of sorcerers dabbling with cursed energy for power, but Yuji's intentions felt different. There was a depth to his motivations, a conviction that felt unsettling. As Megumi steps out of the factory, he knows that he has to discuss this with Gojo-sensei. The thought of someone so young willingly seeking the power of Sukuna raises too many alarms. What would drive someone to take that risk? He needs to understand more about Itadori Yuji and what he really intends to do with that power. Determined, Megumi resolves to keep closer eyes on this mysterious sorcerer. Whatever path Yuji is, it will undoubtedly intertwine with his own, whether he likes it or not. And if it means uncovering the truth behind Yuji's motivation, he's prepared to confront him again, ready for whatever lies ahead. After the encounter with Megumi, Yuji sits alone, feeling the surge of cursed energy still pulsating through him. His thoughts drift to his purpose. Kenjaku's plan, the one thing he's dedicated himself to completing. He's long since abandoned any notion of playing the hero protecting others. His focus is singular to fulfill his mother's wish, no matter the cost. Suddenly, Sukuna's voice interrupts his thought, low and mocking. So you're really determined to go through with this little mission of yours, aren't you? Blindly following someone else's wish. How pathetic. Yuji scoffs, his tone unwavering. I don't expect you to understand. This is my purpose. My only purpose. I owe it to her, and I'm going to see it through. Sukuna chuckles, almost intrigued. And here I thought you had some lofty ideals. I suppose it makes this even simpler. You want power, and I can give it to you. I know more about the cursed energy and techniques than any living sorcerer, and could teach you. But he adds a mischievous grin. I want something in return. Yuji rolls his eyes, already knowing where this is going. Let me guess, you want control. A chance to wreak havoc. Oh, I won't deny it, but you want strength, don't you? Without my help, you'll never fulfill your mother's little dream. Imagine what could you do if you mastered the full extent of my techniques. Yuji hesitates. He feels Sukuna's temptation creeping in. The offer of power he could use to achieve everything Kenjaku has planned, and if it means to give up control for just 5 minutes, it's a price he might just be willing to pay. After a long silence, Yuji looks inward, his voice resolute. Fine, if it means finishing what she started, I'll agree to your terms, but make no mistake, this is about her, not you. Sukuna's laughter fills his mind, twisted and triumphed. Perfect. I'm sure we'll make a formidable team, you and I. Yuji stands, his eyes cold and focused. He's ready to do whatever it takes, to go as far as he needs to, even if it means allying himself with the king of curses. After all, this is the path Kenjaku set him on, and he intends to see it through till the very end. After a few weeks of Yuji and Sukuna pretty much having a binding vow, Red Sukuna would train him, and in return, Yuji would hand over his body to Sukuna whenever Sukuna said some kind of secret word, similar to what happened in the original series. Instead of there, Sukuna would pretty much revive Yuji. In this case, Sukuna would pretty much train Yuji. So Kenjaku and the other disaster curses were sitting in a beach, aka Dagon's domain. The sun dimmed low on the horizon, casting an orange glow over the waves of Kenjaku, Maito, and the disaster curses gathered in Dagon's domain. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation and tension, each figure radiating their own unique energy. They were all waiting for a crucial piece of their plan to arrive. Suddenly, a powerful presence swept through the domain, causing the air to crackle with its energy. All their eyes widened as Yuji Tadori stepped into view, his aura pulsating with strength and confidence. It was evident that his training had transformed him. He carried an intensity that was almost akin to Sukuna himself. Kenjaku narrowed his eyes, his mind racing. How did he get so strong in just a few weeks? Yuji, unfazed by the attention, surveyed the group. So what's this meaning for? His voice was steady, hinting at the power that he felt surging within him. Maito grinned, his eyes glinting with mischief. We have a plan. We'll attack Jujutsu High to take the death curse painting rooms, and Sukuna's remaining fingers that are there in their possession. You and Hanami will distract the sorcerers while we make our move. Yuji turned to Geto, who nodded in agreement. Yes, exactly. Given your rapid progress, you should be able to hold even against someone like Satoru Gojo now. Yuji felt a surge of pride, but also a flicker of something deeper. The weight of the mission pressed on him. He nodded in response and ready to follow through. As he prepared himself for the impending chaos, a familiar voice echoed through his mind. Why didn't you tell them that you have gotten this strong because you've been training under me? Sukuna's tone was mocking, yet there was an undercurrent of genuine curiosity. Yuji didn't respond verbally. Instead, he continued to walk, further focusing on the mission ahead. He was no longer the boy whose entire world revolved around his mother's. His priority had shifted. He had something else prepared in his mind. A different goal than just his mother's mission or completing it. Something different. Meanwhile, at the Jujutsu High, the atmosphere was lively as the teachers absorbed the students participating in the tournament. Laughter and cheers filled the air, but that was cut short, as there was a dark barrier engulfed the entire battlefield. The teacher exchanged worried glances. The instincts kick in as they realized something was off. They sensed an immense cursed energy resonating from the barrier, specifically designed to keep Gojo out. Back in the domain, Yuji, Hanami, and other of the disaster curses stood there, ready for their mission. Hanami's veins swayed with their energy, their formidable presence a clear sign of what has to come. Yuji turned to Hanami, a determined look on his face. Let's do this. We'll show them what true power looks like. As the barrier pulsated around the Jujutsu High, the students sensed a shift in energy, a prelude to the storm that was about to break loose. With Gojo temporarily out of the picture, they knew this was their moment to strike. Mahito grinned, turning to the curses. Let the chaos begin. With a collective roar, the group plunged into action, determined to fulfill their mission and claim their prize. Yuji, with Hanami by his side, charged forward the barrier, ready to face whatever awaited the inside. This was the final confrontation that was set up to unfold. The balance of power in the Jujutsu world of sorcery was about to shift dramatically. The atmosphere in the Jujutsu High shifted dramatically as the oppressive cursed energy seeped into the air. A impeccable force that sent sewage down the spines of the students. Mai dropped to her knees, overwhelmed. Is this really just one guy? She murmured, her voice trembling slightly. Nobara, standing beside her, gulped, audible as sweat trickled down her forehead. The dread in the air was suffocating, and for the first time she felt genuine fear wash over her. This can't be real, she stammered, struggling to maintain her composure. Megami, who had been locked in a combat with Todo, suddenly halted as a bead of sweat dripped down his forehead. As he assessed the situation, "It's him, Sukuna's vessel," he stated, as his voice steady but laced with urgency. "Todo, I think right now we have bigger things than facing each other." Todo, momentarily caught off guard, turned to Megumi, his usual bravado flattering. "What do you mean? Are you saying that we should team up?" His expression shifted from a competitive excitement to serious contemplation, clearly recognizing the gravity of the threat that they were about to face. The students around them exchanged nervous glances, each feeling the weight of the impending confrontation. Their air crackled with tension as they realized the true battle was just about to begin, not against one another, but against a force far greater than any of them had ever anticipated. In a distance, Yuji Itadori stood at the edge of the barrier, flanked by Hanami. His presence radiated a dark, almost intoxicating energy. He could sense the fear crippling through the students, a faint smirk across his face. Let them feel it, he thought. This is what true power feels like. Gojo Satoru stood outside the barrier, his heart racing as he sensed the immense curse energy radiating from within. The familiar feeling of dread washed over him as his eyes widened in realization. This is bad, he thought, the urgency flooding in his mind. I have to dispel this barrier quickly, otherwise all the students will be killed. He recalled his last encounter with Yuji. The boy had been strong, yes, but not like this. How did he get so strong in just a few weeks? As he activated his six eyes, analyzing every potential way to break the barrier that kept him from his students, his vision shifted as he began to see the flow of cursed energy around him, the intrinsic connections between the barriers and the curse itself. Every possibility unfolded in his mind, calculating the risks and the outcome at dizzying speeds. Alright, focus, he muttered to himself, trying to block out the rising panic. He could visualize the threads of cursed energy holding the barrier together. Feeling the tension in the air, he weight of responsibility bore down on him as he realized that he had to act fast. If he can just find the right point of convergence, Gojo mused, his mind racing through the options. He had trained for moments like these, the fear of his students' lives hiding his resolve. He began channeling his energy. He felt a surge of determination. I won't let this happen, not again. He locked onto the strongest point of the barrier, a place where the energy was the most concentrated. With a deep breath, he gathered his cursed energy, preparing to unleash his power. The students inside were counting on him, and he couldn't afford to fail. Here goes nothing, he thought, launching himself onto the barrier, ready to dispel it and confront the chaos brewing within. As he moved, he could feel the echoes of Yuji's presence growing stronger, and he braced himself for the inevitable confrontation that he would follow. The stakes had never been higher, and Gojo was determined to protect his students, no matter the cost. Kenjaku stood at a distance, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of pride and ambition. A grin spread across his face as he absorbed Yuji's overwhelming power radiating from within the barrier. To think his power grew so much. He mused, his mind racing with the implications of Yuji's rapid ascent. The event had unfolded perfectly, just as he had planned. Kenjaku meticulously orchestrated every detail. Now it seemed his masterpiece was nearing completion. Yuji, the child that he had raised on his own, was on the verge of becoming a force that could even rival the strongest sorcerer alive. If he continues to grow at a rate like this, he might even surpass Gojo very soon. Kenjaku thought, a thrill of excitement coursing through him. His plans had always centered around the potential of his young vessel, and seeing the potential manifest in such a spectacular way filled him with a sense of triumph. He knew that if his calculations were correct, only Gojo could pose a challenge to Yuji right now. The powerful sorcerer was just a hurdle in Kenjaku's plan, a necessary obstacle that would ultimately lead to the unfolding of a new order in the world of Jujutsu. If Yuji could defeat Gojo, it would not only solidify his status, but also bring Kenjaku one step closer to achieving his ultimate goal. As he continued to watch, Kenjaku couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Let the games begin, he thought, as his grin widened. This is just the beginning of the new era.